People of God, hear me by the Spirit. This is not an ordinary Tuesday. This is a strategic moment in the realm of the Spirit. As you awaken today, you are stepping onto a battlefield already in motion. Forces have been plotting through the night. Cycles have been attempting to reattach themselves, and unseen powers have been positioning themselves to influence your path. But you have not been left defenseless. God has awakened you because your voice must speak before anything else does. This is the hour where silence is dangerous. This is the hour where hesitation is costly. The enemy is always early, always waiting for the unguarded moment, always listening for the believer who rises without decree. But today you will not be caught unaware. Today you will not be passive. Before the enemy releases a whisper, before circumstances release a suggestion, before fear releases intimidation, you will take the microphone of the morning and legislate your Tuesday under the authority of heaven. You are not entering this day as a victim. You are entering as a commander. Your mouth is a weapon. Your words are spiritual artillery. When you speak, angels move, systems shift, atmospheres rearrange, and demonic operations are disrupted. This Tuesday will not define you. You will define it by divine order. As you cross the threshold of this morning, understand the enemy's assignment is always to get ahead of you, to plant confusion before clarity, to plant distraction before focus, to plant weariness before strength. But today, you cut him off at the gate. You intercept every demonic message. You interrupt every satanic broadcast. You override every negative prediction. You outspeak, outdecree, and outlegislate the enemy by the authority vested in you through Christ Jesus. Your words today are not casual, they are governmental. They are not emotional, they are judicial. When you speak, you are drafting spiritual legislation, signing heavenly orders, and releasing divine mandates into the atmosphere. Nothing in your Tuesday will be permitted to operate illegally. Nothing will function outside heaven's jurisdiction. You are standing as a gatekeeper, an oracle, an ambassador of the kingdom, and you will govern your day accordingly. This Tuesday is pregnant with divine transactions, heaven-backed opportunities, and supernatural alignments. But only those who speak will see manifestation. The heavens respond to sound. Breakthrough responds to command. Favor responds to decree. Protection responds to proclamation. So prepare yourself, because this morning you are about to command, declare, establish, uproot, overthrow, plant, and build. You are about to activate angelic forces, unlock supernatural strategies, and seal your day under the blood of Jesus. You will speak into your Tuesday before the adversary even thinks to move. You will set spiritual boundaries. You will authorize divine protection. You will summon resources. You will summon clarity. You will summon favor. You will shut the mouth of every opposing spirit before it speaks a single word. Get ready. Your decree is about to shift this entire day into supernatural alignment. Heaven is listening, hell is trembling, and your Tuesday is about to obey your voice. You must seize the morning and speak before the enemy sets the tone for your day. When you awaken, you are not simply entering another 24-hour cycle. You are stepping into a spiritual landscape already in motion. The unseen realm has been active while you slept. Assignments have been calculated, distractions have been positioned, and attempts have been made to script your day before you even open your eyes. This is why the morning is not optional, it is strategic. It is the launching pad of destiny and the battleground where direction, clarity, and atmosphere are established. Whoever speaks first in the morning becomes the architect of the day. If you do not speak, something else will. If you do not command your morning, circumstances will command it for you. If you do not legislate your day, the enemy will attempt to legislate in your silence. You must understand that the morning carries prophetic power. It is the womb of the day, the place where spiritual seeds are planted, instructions are given, and pathways are formed. To seize the morning is to intercept everything the enemy planned in the night. It is to rewrite the script the adversary attempted to impose on your emotions, your thoughts, your decisions, your relationships, and your assignments. The enemy thrives in unstructured spaces. He capitalizes on believers who wake up casually, emotionally, or reactively. But when you arise with intention, when your feet touch the floor and your spirit begins to speak, you disrupt the enemy's formation. You interrupt demonic momentum. You dismantle premature attacks before they even manifest. The morning is where you break cycles that try to repeat themselves. It is where you sever yesterday from today and where you silence every voice that seeks to influence you before you step into what God has ordained. Seizing the morning is not simply about prayer. It is about establishing dominance in the realm of the spirit. It is about making your presence known in a world that responds to sound. Creation responds to the voice of the believer. Angels respond to the voice of the believer. Demons react to the voice of the believer. Even your own soul, your mind, your emotions, your will responds to the voice you release at the start of your day. The enemy knows the power of the believer's voice, which is why he aims to speak first. He aims to whisper discouragement before you decree strength. He aims to introduce confusion before you command clarity. He aims to sow fear before you declare faith. He aims to distort your focus before you set your intention. But when you seize the morning, you take that power out of his hands. You choose to speak before he speaks. You choose to define the atmosphere before he attempts to pollute it. You choose to write the script of your day before he tries to sabotage it. There is a reason the scriptures emphasize seeking God early. There is something about the dawn that demands spiritual attention. The morning carries divine instruction. Heaven releases blueprints in the early hours, imparting grace, strategy, and insight for the day. When you seize the morning, you align yourself with heaven's agenda before the world demands your attention. You set divine order before disorder attempts to impose itself. You establish spiritual boundaries before chaos tries to cross them. You authorize angelic activity before demonic forces attempt to interfere. You become the watchman, the gatekeeper, the legislator over your own day. You are no longer reactive. You become proactive, intentional, and authoritative. To seize the morning is to reclaim spiritual territory. Every morning presents a new battlefield, and every sunrise comes with instructions. Your responsibility is to step into that moment fully awake, not just physically, but spiritually. When you speak into your morning, you anchor your day in purpose. You summon your strength. You silence the noise of the night. You break off lingering heaviness. You call your spirit to attention and charge it with focus. You decree what will and what will not occur. You establish the tone of your day with prophetic accuracy. You do not wait for circumstances to dictate your mood or your direction. You dictate them yourself. You refuse to surrender your morning to chance or to spiritual opposition. You seize it with force, intention, and clarity. The enemy is strategic. He knows that if he can influence the start of your day, he can influence the flow of your day. If he can plant one wrong thought, he can intercept opportunities. If he can introduce one small distraction, he can derail momentum. If he can stir one moment of discouragement, he can weaken your confidence. That is why he seeks to speak first. That is why he waits at the door of your morning with suggestion, agitation, confusion, and emotional weight. But when you speak first, you break his power. When you speak first, you close the door. When you speak first, you strip him of access. When you speak first, you take spiritual ownership of your day. You are declaring that this Tuesday will not be shaped by pressure, stress, or opposition, but by divine instruction and prophetic decree. When you seize the morning, you activate spiritual laws that govern your day. You declare that your footsteps are ordered. You declare that your mind is fortified. You declare that your emotions are stabilized. You declare that your assignments are anointed. You declare that every decision will be guided by wisdom. You declare that every decision will be guided by wisdom. You declare that every trap will be exposed. You declare that every door assigned to open will open, and every door not ordained by God will remain shut. These declarations are not mere words. They are spiritual codes that shape the trajectory of your day. They are legislative decrees that heaven recognizes and hell fears. They are the sound that sets your Tuesday into divine alignment. You must speak before the enemy does, because whoever speaks first controls the narrative. Whoever speaks first shapes the atmosphere. Whoever speaks first influences the spiritual climate. So you rise early, you open your mouth, and you command the morning to obey the divine will of God. You seize it with authority, with prophetic insight, with spiritual aggression, and with unshakable faith. You do not wait for your day to unfold. You unfold it with your decree. You do not wait to see what the enemy has planned. You nullify it before it forms. You do not wait to feel strength. You speak strength until it manifests. You seize the morning because your voice is the gateway to victory, and your decree is the key that unlocks the destiny of your day. Your words carry governmental authority to establish divine order over your Tuesday. When you open your mouth, you are not simply speaking, you are legislating. You are releasing decrees that carry spiritual weight and jurisdiction. Heaven recognizes your voice because you are not speaking as a mere human. You are speaking as a citizen of the kingdom, an ambassador backed by the full authority of God. Your words are not suggestions, they are mandates. They are not wishes, they are laws in the realm of the spirit. When you speak, you activate systems, dismantle opposing structures, and summon divine order into every area of your day. The authority God has placed in your mouth is not symbolic, it is governmental. It establishes boundaries, enforces alignment, and commands the elements of your Tuesday to come under the dominion of heaven. Divine order is not something that automatically appears. It must be commanded, it must be spoken into existence. Every day arrives as raw material, unshaped and unstructured, waiting for someone with authority to assign it meaning. When you speak into your Tuesday, you are exercising spiritual dominion. You are telling every hour, every moment, every encounter, every opportunity, and every challenge what position it must take in your life. You are laying down spiritual infrastructure that dictates how the day will flow. Without your voice, your Tuesday remains vulnerable to chaos, confusion, and disorder. But when you rise and open your mouth with boldness, you impose heavenly structure onto earthly time. You call the invisible into the visible. You enforce divine order in a world that naturally drifts toward disorder. Every word you speak releases energy and establishes movement. God framed the world with words, not with his hands, and he has given you that same creative capacity. When you declare peace, peace begins to move. When you declare victory, victory begins to assemble. When you speak favor, favor starts to locate you. When you command alignment, things begin to shift into place. Your words send out spiritual instructions that angels execute. Systems rearrange around and circumstances bow to. Nothing in your Tuesday is permitted to move independently. Everything must respond to the authority of your decree, because your decree is a spiritual law. The enemy understands this far better than many believers, which is why he desires silence from your lips. If he can keep you silent, he can operate without resistance. If he can keep you passive, he can rewrite your day. But when you speak, you override his influence. You shut down unauthorized activity. You break illegal operations. You enforce spiritual boundaries that the enemy cannot cross. Divine order begins with divine speech. When you command your day, you establish what will govern your emotions, your decisions, your productivity, your relationships, and your spiritual posture. You refuse to be led by impulse or external pressure. You refuse to be tossed by unexpected events. You refuse to allow negativity, discouragement, or fear to take root. Instead, you choose to lead your day with intention. You take spiritual responsibility for your atmosphere. You take authority over your mind. You take dominion over your schedule. You position yourself as the spiritual governor over your Tuesday. And with every word you speak, you tighten your jurisdiction. You make it impossible for the enemy to infiltrate, manipulate, or contaminate your day, because your decree has already established the boundaries within which your Tuesday must operate. To carry governmental authority means you are not begging for order, you are enforcing it. You are not hoping for peace, you are commanding it. You are not praying for direction, you are activating it. You are not wishing for breakthrough, you are legislating it with your words. This authority is backed by heaven's legal system. When you speak, all of heaven stands behind your decree. Angelic forces are dispatched. Demonic resistance is confronted. Spiritual gates open. Destinies shift. The realm of the spirit bows to the authority God has placed on your tongue. You are not an observer of your day. You are its ruler. You are not at the mercy of events. Events are at the mercy of your decree. This is why your words must be intentional, prophetic, and aligned with the word of God. Your tongue is the scepter of your spiritual rulership. Your decree is the seal of heaven's authority operating through you. When you establish divine order with your words, you are building a spiritual shield around your Tuesday. You create a protective perimeter that the enemy cannot penetrate. You place your mind under divine governance so that intrusive thoughts cannot take over. You place your emotions under divine stability so that mood swings, heaviness, or agitation cannot distract you. You place your environment under divine alignment so that chaos cannot erupt unexpectedly. Everything you speak becomes a spiritual law that governs the movement of your day. You legislate peace when warfare tries to arise. You legislate clarity when confusion tries to appear. You legislate strength when weakness tries to settle. You legislate focus when distraction tries to infiltrate. You legislate progress when stagnation tries to return. With every word, you are constructing the reality you will walk in throughout the day. Your Tuesday does not respond to time, it responds to authority. It does not respond to intention, it responds to decree. It does not respond to emotion, it responds to law. Divine order is established when you speak as one who knows who they are in the realm of the spirit. You are not speaking from fear, doubt, or uncertainty. You are speaking from your identity as a king and priest. Kings do not negotiate, they legislate. Priests do not react, they establish. When you speak over your Tuesday, you are releasing spiritual governance that has the power to override every contrary force. Nothing in your day has the right to exist outside the jurisdiction of your words. Nothing has the authority to rise without your permission. Nothing has the power to disrupt the flow. You decree. When you speak, you place your Tuesday under divine restraint. You organize the invisible realm. You place your spirit in command. You bring your entire day into alignment with heaven's timing, heaven's wisdom, and heaven's purpose. That is what it means to speak with governmental authority. You are not just praying, you are ruling. You are not just hoping, you are establishing. You are not just asking, you are enforcing divine law. Your words are the voice of heaven expressed through your earthly body, and your Tuesday must yield to what you decree, because divine order always responds to divine authority. Every unspoken day becomes vulnerable to demonic interference and unauthorized activity. A day without your decree is a day left open, unguarded, and spiritually exposed. When you fail to speak, you unintentionally create a vacuum that the enemy is eager to fill. The realm of the spirit hates emptiness. Whatever you do not intentionally occupy, something else will attempt to govern. Whatever you do not cover, something else will infiltrate. Silence is not neutral. It is permission. It is an open gate. It is the absence of spiritual ownership. And the enemy is constantly watching, constantly waiting, constantly searching for the believer who wakes up without releasing a word, without legislating their atmosphere. An unspoken day is a day the enemy sees as unclaimed territory, a space where he can plant seeds of confusion, distraction, fear, frustration, or spiritual fatigue without resistance. Every hour of your Tuesday is influenced by one of two voices, either the believer or the voice of the adversary. If your voice does not go forth, the enemy's whispers begin to shape your perceptions, your emotions, and your decisions. Suddenly, small irritations feel bigger than they should. Unexpected delays feel overwhelming. Simple tasks feel draining. Opportunities seem hidden. Clarity becomes clouded. Why? Because the enemy found a gap. He found an unspoken day. He found a believer who stepped into Tuesday without setting spiritual order. You cannot afford to leave your day without direction because the enemy thrives in unstructured environments. He thrives when there is no decree, no intention, no divine instruction released. He thrives when the believer is spiritually passive, reactive, or unfocused. When you do not speak into your day, the enemy begins to sow thoughts that were never yours to carry. Thoughts of insufficiency, inadequacy, stress, confusion, or discouragement begin to creep in subtly. He introduces emotional weight that feels unexplainable. He triggers unnecessary conflicts. He disturbs your pace. He tries to exhaust your energy early so you have nothing left for your assignments. He attempts to contaminate your joy before it even begins to rise. All of this happens because the spiritual environment of the day was left unregulated. Your silence created room. Your hesitation created opportunity. Your lack of spiritual engagement created entry points the enemy was waiting to exploit. Every day that goes unspoken becomes shaped by forces that do not carry your best interest. You have been given the authority to bind, loose, decree, declare, and establish. But if you leave your day unspoken, you leave your authority unused. You leave your dominion unexercised. You leave your spiritual influence unchecked. And when authority is left idle, something else will take control. The enemy does not need full access to derail your day. He only needs a single open hour, a single unguarded moment, a single unchallenged thought. That is enough for him to distort your direction, drain your strength, or derail your focus. But when you speak, you close those doors. When you speak, you seal those gaps. When you speak, you tighten the boundaries of your day so nothing unauthorized can enter. A day without your decree invites spiritual interference because it lacks defined structure. Your words create spiritual architecture. They build walls, gates, and hedges around your day. They establish a covering that the enemy cannot cross. When you begin your morning with intentional decree, you are constructing an invisible fortress around your time, your assignments, your relationships, your mind, and your spirit. But when you remain silent, there are no walls. There are no gates. There are no protective barriers. Everything becomes open. Everything becomes accessible. Everything becomes vulnerable to forces that seek to derail, distract, or destroy your progress. Silence is not merely the absence of words. It is the absence of spiritual order. And wherever order is absent, chaos fills the void. The enemy's strategy is always to take advantage of the believer who neglects to speak. He is not intimidated by passivity. He is not moved by silence. He is not hindered by unspoken prayers, but he is stopped by decree. He is restrained by authority. He is blocked by prophetic proclamation. He is confronted by intentional speech. That is why he opposes your voice. That is why he distracts you the moment you try to pray. That is why he tries to fill your morning with rush, noise, or mental fog. He knows that if he can silence you, he can shape your day If he can silence you, he can create interference. If he can silence you, he can plant sabotage without being detected. When your day goes unspoken, the enemy also introduces delays and diversions that appear harmless at first. A sudden distraction, a draining conversation, an unexpected inconvenience, a moment of emotional heaviness, a sense of internal chaos. These are not random, they are engineered interferences made possible because the day was not spiritually claimed. But when you speak into your Tuesday, you break these patterns before they begin. You shut down the enemy's ability to attach unnecessary burdens. You dismantle the spirit of delay. You silence confusion. You block discouragement. You close the door to cycles that try to repeat themselves. Your words act as spiritual shields that repel everything not assigned by heaven. An unspoken day also becomes fertile ground for old patterns to resurface. Habits you thought were conquered, mindsets you believed were broken, emotions you assumed were healed. When the day begins without decree, these things look for re-entry points. They search for the familiar cracks in your atmosphere. But when you speak, you seal those cracks. You reinforce your deliverance. You maintain your freedom. Your decree is not just about the day, it is about maintaining spiritual authority over territories you have already conquered. Without speaking, those territories become susceptible to reoccupation. Your Tuesday needs your voice, because your voice carries the sound of alignment, the sound of direction, the sound of protection, the sound of divine order. When you speak, you call every part of your life to attention. You awaken your spirit. You summon heaven's backing. You disrupt demonic movement. You activate angelic assignments. You alert every spiritual force that you're present, aware, and governing. But when you remain silent, heaven has nothing to respond to. Angels have no instructions to act on. The enemy has no opposition to confront. Your day becomes spiritually neutral, and neutrality is dangerous in warfare. You were never meant to enter a day silently. Silence is never spiritual wisdom, it is spiritual surrender. The power of your voice is the safeguard of your day. When you decree, you take ownership. When you decree, you secure your atmosphere. When you decree, you establish boundaries that the enemy cannot trespass. Your words are spiritual alarms, spiritual gates, and spiritual laws. Without them, your day remains unstructured and unprotected. With them, your Tuesday becomes fortified, aligned, and guided by divine authority. Every unspoken day becomes vulnerable, but every declared day becomes victorious. Your voice is the deciding factor, the spiritual regulator, the force that determines what enters, what exits, and what manifests throughout your Tuesday. Heaven moves, angels respond, and atmospheres shift when you decree with intention. Nothing in the realm of the spirit remains still when a believer opens their mouth with authority. Your words are not empty vibrations. They are signals, commands, and activations that ripple through dimensions seen and unseen. When you decree intentionally, you are not merely speaking, you are igniting motion. You are stirring activity in places your natural eyes cannot see. Heaven is not passive towards your voice. Angels are not indifferent towards your decree. Atmospheres do not resist the sound of divine authority. The moment you speak, something begins to move. The moment you decree, something begins to align. The moment you release your voice, spiritual forces begin to reposition themselves according to what you have declared. There are movements in heaven that only begin when you speak. There are angelic assignments that only activate when you decree. There are breakthroughs waiting on the sound of your command. Heaven is a responsive kingdom. It responds to faith-filled words. It responds to intentional decrees. It responds to believers who understand their authority and release it without hesitation. Angels are ministers, but they do not minister without instruction. They are protectors, but they do not protect without activation. They are warriors, but they do not fight without command. They are messengers, but they do not carry messages that have not been spoken. Your decree gives them their assignment. Your words give them their mission. Your voice gives them direction. When you speak with intention, the spiritual realm comes alive with movement in your favor. Atmospheres shift because atmospheres are subject to sound. Every spiritual climate has a frequency, and your decree disrupts, transforms, and recalibrates that frequency. When you decree peace, chaos begins to dissolve. When you decree clarity, confusion loses its grip. When you decree victory, fear is displaced. When you decree strength, weakness retreats. Your words do not simply echo through the air, they alter the environment. They break up spiritual density. They remove demonic residue. They pierce through spiritual fog. They generate momentum. You cannot see everything that your words are moving, but they are moving nonetheless. They are shifting the unseen components of your Tuesday into alignment with the will of God. When you decree intentionally, you legislate with purpose, and heaven cannot ignore legislation. Intentional decrees are not emotional expressions. They are targeted spiritual executions. They are instructions delivered with precision. They are commands designed to create specific outcomes. God honors intentional speech because it reflects faith, authority, and alignment with His word. Heaven responds to believers who understand what they are saying and why they are saying it. Every intentional decree is like a spiritual arrow. It does not wander. It hits its target. It penetrates resistance. It carries divine force. It sets things in motion that nothing can stop. Angels respond because they were created to respond to the voice of God. And the voice of God echoes through your decrees when you speak His word. They do not respond to fear. They do not respond to worry. They do not respond to silence. But they do respond to faith. They respond to authority. They respond to prophetic utterance. They respond to commands spoken from a place of spiritual identity. When you decree, the atmosphere around you becomes charged with movement. Angels begin to disperse interference. They begin to clear pathways. They begin to open doors. They begin to war on your behalf. They begin to enforce spiritual laws that your words activated. Ever moves because your decree authorizes the movement. God gave dominion to humanity, and He does not override His own law. He waits for your decree to initiate spiritual activity. When you speak, you are granting heaven legal access to intervene, and manifest. When you decree healing, heaven sends healing. When you decree open doors, heaven possessions open doors. When you decree protection, heaven establishes protection. You decree becomes heaven's assignment for the day. Your words become the blueprint heaven builds upon. Without decree, heaven waits. With decree, heaven acts. Intention gives your decree power because intention aligns your spirit, your mind, and your words with heaven's authority. Atmospheres shift because your decree releases spiritual authority into the environment. Authority is not silent. It is not passive. It is not timid. Authority speaks. Authority commands. Authority directs. When you decree intentionally, the environment around you recognizes your authority. Demonic forces retreat. Darkness loses influence. Oppression breaks. Anxiety lifts. Confusion dissolves. The spiritual climate begins to reflect the sound you release. The more intentional your decree, the stronger the shift. You are not waiting for the atmosphere to change. You are changing it with your sound. Intentional decrees also break spiritual stagnation. There are moments when the day feels heavy, slow, or resistant because the atmosphere is weighed down by unseen forces. But your decree disrupts stagnation. It releases momentum where there was none. It creates spiritual acceleration. It breaks barriers that tried to delay your progress. It awakens dormant potential. It stirs divine movement. Heaven cannot remain still when intention fills your voice. Angels cannot remain idle when purpose fills your decree. Atmospheres cannot remain unchanged when authority fills your sound. Your decree becomes the catalyst that transforms your Tuesday into a day of divine movement. Without your voice, nothing initiates. Without your decree, nothing shifts. Without your intention, nothing activates. But when you decree with purpose, everything responds. There is no neutral reaction to the voice of a believer who knows their authority. Heaven responds with movement. Angels respond with action. Atmospheres respond with transformation. The earthly realm begins to reflect the spiritual realm you have established with your words. You become the conductor of spiritual activity. You become the regulator of your environment. You become the governor of your day through the force of your decree. Every intentional decree becomes a point of contact between earth and heaven. It becomes a bridge through which divine power flows. It becomes a spiritual command center that reshapes everything in your path. When you decree, you are not only speaking to your day, you are shaping it. You are influencing it. You are saturating it with the will of God. You are pushing back darkness. You are pulling down breakthrough. You are summoning angelic movement. You are shifting atmospheres into divine alignment. This is why you cannot decree casually. You must decree intentionally. You must speak with purpose. You must release words that carry weight and authority. Because when you speak with intention, heaven does not remain passive. Angels do not remain idle. Atmospheres do not remain unshift. Everything begins to move, align, and shift according to the sound of your decree.